2 years ago, our investigation revealed that Eastoner, Farnhope and Muchmarcle in the east of Herefordshire were on a Whitehall map, a government map for potential shale gas exploration work. Now it's emerged the government has already carried out environmental studies at Whitchurch and Simmons Yat in the Wye Valley and Llangrove and Welsh Newton on the Herefordshire-Welsh border with a view to issuing licences to fracking firms there. Any decision for the green light looks likely to hinge on a 6-week consultation process.
Well, we're here in Hightown this morning. A group of us, we're going to walk down the River Wye to protest against fracking because we love Herefordshire, we love Gloucestershire, and it's a dangerous and rather frightening and unnecessary technique. So I've got a few people here who are pretty knowledgeable about it. Owen, can you tell us about what you've been up to in Gloucestershire?
Yeah, obviously we're from Fracklefarth Forest. I live about half a mile from the border with Herefordshire, so I'm right on the border between Gloucestershire and Herefordshire. We've been fighting gas exploration and fracking because it could be both, you know. Since last August, when we heard that licences were going to be issued for covering the Forest of Dean and southwest Herefordshire and a tiny bit on the other side of the Severn. So basically we're fighting all sorts of gas exploration, coal bed methane, shale gas, fracking, and also conventional gas exploration, which we've heard the company has told us that they're interested in that as well.
And you seem to have been very successful at mobilising people.
Yeah, I mean basically we had a demo, I think, in a few weeks of forming outside the County Council, Gloucestershire County Council. Even though they weren't actually discussing fracking, we thought it was good to show them in advance how much opposition there was. And we managed to get about 300 or 400 people on I think it was a Tuesday at 10 a.m. So we were quite impressed by that. And from there, we've had quite a few demonstrations. We've been to the House of Lords to meet with the government. We've met with the would-be frackers to sort of basically tell them not to do it, but also to find out what their plans were and talk to them about it. And we're on a quest now. I've come up to show solidarity, and also it's our shared battle. Don't Frack the Shires and Fracklefarth Forest, because we're all affected at the end of the day. If our aquifer gets polluted, it's the whole area is under threat.
Yeah.
Not just the area where they're drilling.
Thank you. That's great. And we in Herefordshire have been really inspired by what you're doing in Gloucestershire. And
right.
As you said, we're very honoured to have Gandalf with us here today. Can you tell us what you're doing today and why?
Well, in our great epic, Lord of the Rings, our great British epic, this actually was inspiration for Tolkien's Shire, and this is the Shire. And he lived in Birmingham, and he used to walk down through the Malverns and the Forest of Dean and Herefordshire, and so I came upon this idea to dress up and march and walk. So the idea is to walk to London, Mordor. In Tolkien's book it was actually Port Talbot and down by the mines and the open cast mines down there, but now it's shifted to Westminster, and we're going to post a symbolic ring through the cracks of Mount Doom, 10 Downing Street, and gather allies as we go. That's the idea.
The first step is the Old Forest, where you meet Tom Bombadil and...
Exactly. The first step is the Old Forest, where we're going in the next few days. So please join us. Anybody who's around, join our quest.
Lovely. Thank you. Why the costume? Why the protest?
Protest anti-fracking, costume because we're in the Shire, and I found this amazing cloak, and then the hat, and then the stars, so it all followed together.
Have you had a good reception from the public outside Bathurst today?
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, people are informed about the issue, and on the whole, they're very against it.
Are you genuinely worried that an area of outstanding natural beauty like Simmons Yat, huge tourism market, will have fracking there?
It's amazing, Nicola. This is it's the iconic, picturesque beauty spot. It's the start of the whole tourist industry down in Simmons Yard. I think it's extraordinary that they should plan to frack there. And yes, I think it's worrying. The river runs right through it. There's so many instances now around the world of water being polluted. It's not just one tap being lit by a gas leak. There's hundreds and hundreds of really bad stories about health being affected by this industry.
Why are you so worried about it though? Because those in favour would say there's no evidence that it's dangerous.
There's lots of evidence. We've got DVDs, and if you look on any of the websites about the fracking, about fracking, then you'll find there's hundreds of cases of hard evidence about detrimental impact. And this is where it all started. Actually, just over there by the Green Dragon. This is where I spent a day just picketing Jessie, really, because our local MP, and I was fed up with words, wanted a bit of action. So I just sat over there all day and thought, don't frack the Shire, Jessie. The Shire, the Shire. Ah, Lord of the Rings, Gandalf. And that's where it all began. Here's the forest. This is where they want to frack. How can you believe that? This beautiful place. And here's Simmons Yard. This is the beginnings of the whole picturesque movement. It's where the tourist industry began. It's where the beautiful River Wye flowed through down to the Severn. How could they want to pollute and loot this beautiful country?
Hello everyone, I'm from Frackoff Forest, and it's great to see so many people out here to show our absolute determination that we will not allow the oil and gas industry and the government to play Russian roulette with our life support system, which is our water, and it's our land. It belongs to everyone here, and we say no. And if we say no, we say no.
The peasants are revolting. The peasants sure look revolting. You sure look revolting this morning. Thanks for turning out. Really great to see so many people. Thanks especially to the nunners for coming all this way. Yes, well, I have a pledge here, a declaration. This is a pledge that I hope everybody here will sign and pass on to friends and relations to sign somehow. So let me just read out the pledge, if I could. Can you hold the mic? And thanks to everybody who's put so much into this, like the writing on this scroll and things. Okay. We, the undersigned, are gathered here at Yacht Rock on the 20th of August 2016 to pledge our allegiance to this land and our commitment to help defend it from oil and gas exploration, fracking, and any other toxic industry that will pollute its waters and air. We represent the majority of the people of Herefordshire and Gloucestershire. We are opposed to the government plans to allow fracking in our counties. We say there is no social licence for this ruinous industry to operate here. Loud and clear, we say, don't frack the Shires. I have one more message to say to the looters and polluters who would come to this area. They shall not pass. So, let's hear it all together. Give me a they. Give me a shall. Give me a not. Give me a pass. What does that say?
They shall not pass.
What does that say?
They shall not pass.
What does that say?
They shall not pass.
Thank you so much. Get signing on the table. We're signing the pledge. Everybody, please sign this pledge.
Greetings Gloucestershire and Herefordshire. We came down yesterday from Lancashire. There's some more coming on their way to join us. When it comes to fracking, there is no end to your shire and start to ours. It's all one air, one water. And so we hope as we'll come and stand with you, that when it comes time, maybe you'll journey up to us as well. We've had the privilege as nanas of travelling all over the country, touring all the local anti-fracking groups. I can tell you there is nothing but scenes like this throughout the country. Just really beautiful, lovely local people coming together and finding their sense of community there. You know, one of the reporters once asked, you know, what do you think of your community? And one of the locals said, well, we are a community. Before we were just neighbours. Now we stand together to defend our community against a threat to the health of our young. And I think it's been an amazing thing that you've pulled together today. And I will say that after 5 years of fighting this, I can't think of a better setting, although don't tell the other shires, but this is a really beautiful place to be. Thanks very much for inviting us, and I hope we have a really good day. Thank you, Tina.
Let me show you, sorry, what did you say your name was? Catherine, let me show you the ring.
Oh, fantastic.
This is the ring that we hope to post through the cracks of Mount Doom, 10 Downing Street. We don't care who's in residence, that's not the issue, but this is the ring that comes from a tractor and a trailer in deepest Herefordshire. And if you watch, it'll bite you. So this is going through the letterbox, and I hope I don't get too attached to it, that I won't be able to let it go. Maybe you'll get a child to actually post it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's their future. They're messing with
So what's the significance of that ring specifically?
Well, just that it's rural.
Yeah.
It's from the earth. It's not golden, but I'm sure it's powerful. It used to carry a trailer, so it's got power behind it. And it comes all the way with us. And it's just it's symbolic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a symbol of the epic, English epic, the Lord of the Rings. It's our great English epic, isn't it?
Would you be happy if I took a photograph? Is that okay?
Of course,
It's raining all there,
This is from a poem by Adrienne Rich, which is called Natural Resources. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely and with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world.
Coming back to the garden, oh, let me back in the garden. Wanna come back to the garden, oh, so very good. Coming back to the garden, let me back in the garden. Wanna be back in the garden, oh, so very good.
In these magical surroundings, it's easy to see how Tolkien could let his imagination wander off into adventures with Gandalf and his companions.
Yeah.
Amazing news today, eh? Quite astounding. One of those things that you keep on going back to in your mind when the day runs on. You think, oh, but that happened! Isn't that incredible? So it's really fantastic news, isn't it? And all of us kind of did it.
We've had confirmation today from the horse's mouth, the Southwestern Energy, that they've not accepted the licences. So, in other words, they've pulled out of the Forest of Dean and Wiltshire. They're still aiming to explore in Somerset, so that's a battle still to be won. But as far as the Forest of Dean and Herefordshire and Wiltshire is concerned, we are now frack free. So the threat is obviously it could come back in the next licensing round.
Yeah.
But we're safe at least for a few years. So the onus now is on supporting other anti-fracking campaigns around the country and around the world, and also to basically try and get the local plan sorted, so fracking can't come back, and so we see it off for good, basically.
So I think it's really important to have our own PR machine, if you want to call it that, with graphics and posters and videos and photography documenting the real story that we can tell when we're standing up to policies that are made elsewhere that don't really, to line their pocket. I think it's really important to counter the news that we're fed on mainstream television, and it's also really vital for future generations to see that we tried to make a stand and hopefully succeeded in making a stand.
They cited two reasons for giving up. One of them was economic reasons, because of oil prices being too low. They couldn't raise the money they needed to explore. But the most important thing is they said it was due to public opposition. that they couldn't do it. So it's down. It just shows that people power works. People power is a solution.
So this is Peter Morris. We're at Slimbridge at the Wildfire and Wetlands Centre here, and Peter works here. So yeah, here we are. Peter, what do you think about this amazing news yesterday then?
I'm not actually surprised by it because, from what I understand, the prospects for fracking operations in the Severn Estuary weren't that high anyway. It's an explorative licence in the first place. But this is one of 10 wetland centres and reserves we've got around the country, and other ones are in areas where there is already exploratory work going on, and that does give us quite a bit of concern.
Yeah, so I mean, we're thinking of it down here that the battle might be won, but the war is certainly still going on, and it's happening elsewhere, so we have to be vigilant. Yeah?
It is. I mean, from our point of view, we need energy. We need to find ways to do it. So it's not a straight let's not look at anything. The precautionary principle doesn't overtake everything. But the report I'm holding is a joint report with several other NGOs where we looked at it closely, and there's some high bars that need to be got over in order to go ahead here. It's a hell of a lot of water that you need, pressurised underground, a lot of chemicals that go into it, and then it's got to come back out again. We're to do with wetlands, and wetlands are fed by water, so the worry, are they going to manage to get all that water back without pollutants getting into wetlands? You've got to understand water tables, how they go up and down. For the coastal exploratory licences, the tides bring water back and forth. There's a lot there that you think, we don't know, I'm sure they don't know, and that's the worry.
That is a worry, I quite agree. There are so many stories worldwide now of water contamination. It's not an isolated case anymore. There's people's children getting sick, their farm animals getting sick, and you know that case of just lighting the tap, which seemed to be a bit of a gimmick, but now it's happening to so many places that. How can we trust this? Water travels anywhere, doesn't it?
It does, and also there is the moratorium on drilling directly in places like SPAs and SAC. So these are the European protected areas that are the most protected areas in the country. But a few feet to the side, there's a small buffer zone, but a few feet beyond the buffer zone, you can drill there and then go underneath, which that's a worry in itself. But also, the Severn Estuary itself is a protected area, but 100 miles upstream, if there's work going on around the catchment there, the wider catchment, then there's water that's going to actually come to the surface further down the catchment. It's back to water, travels in mysterious ways, if you like. And how can you predict all of that?
Yeah, how can you?
Thank you, and best of luck. This is absolutely bonkers, which is what makes it brilliant. So best of luck to you in getting your message across.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Thanks.
My name's Meg Nielsen. I'm from Australia. I'm from a little place called Bentley in the Northern Rivers district of New South Wales. We had a very good success with defeating the gas monster, the unconventional gas. We had a gas company who wanted to put in 1,000 wells across our beautiful farming valley, across the green rolling hills of northern New South Wales. Fortunately, we have a very good community of really caring people, and we did community surveys right across the area. We have 147 communities across the Northern Rivers district of New South Wales who have declared themselves gas field free and who have made it clear that we don't want any unconventional gas wells in our district. The New South Wales government tried to clamp down on us. They tried to intimidate us. They said they were going to put in between 800 and 900 riot squad police, and they were trying to make us back down. Even the police association were on our side. A lot of the families of the police actually lived in the area, and they said no as well. So We were very fortunate. The police said to the government there are going to be fatalities, we're going to have casualties. We worked quite closely with the government and the bureaucrats in Parliament House, and we managed to get first of all, the government suspended the licence to drill, and then they negotiated with the company McGasco and bought back the licence, and the Northern Rivers was free. But of course it's not just about the Northern Rivers, it's not just about New South Wales, it's not just about Australia, it's about the earth, isn't it? It's about the world.
I think it's worth highlighting what this government is doing in relation to fracking. It is supporting it, but it is supporting it not for any concrete reason whatsoever. And this became very clear at the beginning of this year when a letter was leaked, been sent from DEFRA, from the Communities and Local Government Department and from the Climate Change Department, which now no longer exists, to the Chancellor last summer, shortly after the Lancashire fracking application was turned down. Now, this government is clearly intending to support fracking no matter what the public wants, no matter what the evidence of harm is. And I'm just going to read you a couple of small bits from that letter that just explain what the attitude is. We need to focus on developing a clear and persuasive narrative which demonstrates why the potential that shale represents is so important to our future energy security. The development and implementation of an ambitious cross-government programme of communications and outreach to influence key opinion formers, decision makers and civic leaders, including media opportunities for ministers, a suite of information and materials for the public. So this is basically a PR agenda. This is not a let's tell them how wonderful it is and give them all this evidence. This is how do we persuade the public? This is the reason that we produce these information leaflets. This is the reason that the public are having to motivate themselves and communities are having to inform each other, because the mainstream media are not giving us the true picture. They are giving us the government spin, which very clearly was laid out. This is what we are doing. This is a PR job. To the extent that they also need to adjust, apparently, the usability and integrity of the regulatory systems, including the planning system. In other words, if you don't want it, we're going to change the planning regulations so that you're going to get it anyway. And this is what happened towards about this time last year, and it's those new regulations that have allowed the fracking application in North Yorkshire to be accepted. This industry has no legitimacy. When a planning committee is told that experience from elsewhere is not relevant to the present application, you know you are dealing with insanity. How else does anybody learn anything but from experience of others and experience that has happened elsewhere? When a planning committee is told to actively ignore that, then there is definitely something very, very dodgy going on. So let us be clear. We are having the wool pulled over our eyes in the mainstream media. You will not see images like these which show the devastation that fracking does to a landscape. You will not be shown these in the mainstream media. The government like to give the impression that when there's a fracking application being considered, it's one little well tucked away in the country, nobody's going to notice, and we're just exploring anyway. Every big fracking field starts with one well, and to produce any kind of quantity of usable gas, it needs hundreds of wells. When they do fracking, when they bore fracking wells, the industry itself admits that 6% or more of these wells will fail quickly, and over time this can go up to 20% or higher. Now, if you have a fracking field full of hundreds of gas wells, that is a guaranteed contamination risk. So the attitude that we have in this country, that the government has in this country, talks about mitigating risks. It doesn't talk about looking at the overall danger, the harm that has been shown to result from fracking.
We're against fracking in principle because it's a risk we don't need to take to produce a gas that we can't afford to burn if we're going to fight climate change. If we hit our decarbonisation targets by 2050, we'll need half as much gas as we currently use in the country today, and the North Sea has enough to produce that at least. But more than that, we found an alternative way to make gas in Britain, green gas from grass. And we're launching a study in a couple of weeks that shows that there's enough marginal farmland in Britain to make enough green gas to power all the homes in Britain. It's a far safer way to make gas and more sustainable because it will endure forever than fracking is. There's no danger to countryside, no pollution. It will create habitats for nature as well as sustainable gas, which is truly low carbon, which fracking isn't. So whichever way you look at it, fracking is something we just shouldn't be doing.
And green grass, green energy from grass?
Green gas. Green gas made from grass.
Oh, wow, tell us more about that, I don't understand.
Yeah, well, green gas is a relatively new thing. We introduced the idea to Britain in about 2010, and we were buying it from abroad at the time, from Holland. But basically you can make gas through a process of anaerobic digestion, and traditional ways to make it have been through food waste, sometimes animal waste, which is not so nice, and energy crops, and both of those methods have a drawback. We found a kind of middle way, which is to use grass, which can grow on marginal land. It needs no pesticides and fertilizers, so therefore it creates an organic habitat for wildlife, and it makes better gas and more gas per tonne than the other methods do. So it's a great way to make gas. You can then scrub it up and put it into the grid, and it becomes part of our mains gas.
Wow, and this is the thing you're kind of starting in Tewkesbury?
Yeah, we have a planning application. I think the decision is due at the end of September. That will be not our first one. We had one already in Somerset, so we've got 3 in planning at the moment.
Okay, they're going through, so none have been given the go-ahead yet, but they're in. Okay.
Nothing's got the go-ahead yet.
Yeah, but yeah. Cross fingers.
Yeah,
okay,
cross fingers.
Good stuff. All right, thanks for speaking to me.
No trouble.
I moved to the Cotswolds from Bolcombe, which, if anyone remembers, is the place that had the huge anti-fracking protest about 3 years ago.
Very well, Caroline Lucas got arrested there.
Yeah, and my parents still live there. And I moved here, found out there was a fracking threat locally, founded Frack Free Five Valleys, and also something called the Toxin Free Network. And it's basically a network of communities that survey themselves to show that there's no social licence for fracking in their area, and invariably it's at least over 75%, it's usually 85% or more of people say that they not just they don't like it, it's that they don't give the social licence for fracking, and they also are behind people peacefully defending their communities. So when communities do this process and actually organise to protect themselves, which is obviously quite an important part of it, then that gives a very strong message to companies that going to those areas to try and frack is going to be a bit of both a PR and a financial nightmare.
Three rings for the Elven Kings under the sky, 7 for the Dwarf Lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the Dark Lord and his dark throne. In the land of Mordor where the shadows lie, 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. No fracking, eh?
No fracking.
They shall not pass.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know the Hobbit, you know the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I love it.
Brilliant.
I love it. That's why we're here.
That's so good. The number of people who just yell out, Gandalf!
Yeah.
Gandalf. And do you know, I've met one person yesterday who wasn't against fracking.
Yeah.
Everybody hates it, the idea, is totally sort of against it. It's bizarre.
It's all about,
And I'm with you there.
You agree?
Good.
Yeah.
Everybody does. That's the thing. I've met one person who doesn't. Right. Pick up your stuff and walk, eh? Who? No, it's not the BFG. Nearly. Nearly, Merlin. Nearly. Who's the character from The Hobbit? Who? You character from The Hobbit? Are you Hobbit? Who's the character from The Hobbit? Come on, with a hat like this. Gandalf, yes! I'm Gandalf. I'm Gandalf.
Have you got any questions for Gandalf?
Any questions for Gandalf?
Sensible questions.
Sensible questions, you.
Why are you holding a flag?
Well, I'm holding the flag because it says, who can read that?
Don't frack the shires.
Yes, well done. You can all read very well. Don't frack the shires. And your teacher will tell you sometime what fracking is. Gandalf stayed in the Shire for over 2 months. Then one evening, at the end of June, soon after Frodo's plan had been finally arranged, he suddenly announced that he was going off again next morning. "Only for a short while, I hope," he said. "But I'm going down beyond the southern borders to get some news if I can. I've been idle longer than I should have been." He spoke lightly, but it seemed to Frodo that he looked rather worried. "Has anything happened?" he asked. "Well, no, but I've heard something that's made me anxious and needs looking into. If I think it necessary, after all, for you to get off at once, I shall come back immediately, or at least send word. In the meanwhile, stick to your plan, but be more careful than ever, especially of the ring. Let me impress on you once more, don't use it." Okay, here we are, the last leg. Oxford to London, into Mordor, along the River Thames. Here we go, see you later. this is the third stage of the quest from Oxford to London. So here we are. This is when I decided to continue the water theme and go along the River Thames, and how beautiful that was. And that was a lifesaver, really. I don't think I could have made it along concrete, but along the roads with all that sort of hassle. But along the river with various people that I met and who came out to meet me was just a complete delight. Now and again I would hitch a ride, like with these wonderful people, Stephen Moira, who gave me a lift this beautiful morning through Abingdon. And I had lunch with them and stayed on the boat with them a little bit. Here we are going down to towards Reading, just before Reading, Caversham, and here we are on the bridge in Abingdon, and it was wonderful. And then I would get off at the next lock and then walk along for a few hours and meet all these people living on their houseboats, and you know, nobody was in favour of fracking. Everybody knew a lot about it, and nobody wants it, especially not in their backyard. Of course not. Why would you? And this is Emma, this lovely lady who let me sleep in her camper van when she stayed with her father. What a lovely woman. And this is just coming into Windsor. This is a cafe where I stayed. Had a cup of coffee and some scrambled eggs. This is the Stanley Spencer Gallery at Cookham on the way through. This is Maidenhead. This is the only place where I had to pay for a night's accommodation. This is the M4, passing under the M4. I realised, John, that magic really does happen, but you have to be quiet and you have to be slow. And sometimes walking by the river, magic would just erupt around me. Dragonflies, frogs, newts, ducks, geese, buzzards, kites, red kites. These are all the wild animals, let alone all the domestic animals, the cows, the horses, the sheep, who would come up inquisitively and sniffle. And also so good to travel alone, so I could just be with my thoughts and meet the people full on who I was meeting. So much better than actually going with people the whole time. Sometimes people did meet with me and we walked together, and that was great too. But very nice to be on my own, walking by the river. Now and again I would see the roads on the other side of the river, the M4 or the A40 coming down, and I would look at all these little sort of metal boxes hurtling along that asphalt path, and going from one concrete building to another concrete building, then back in their metal box and hurtling to another concrete building. Well, what I usually do, you know, I don't want to be hypocritical about this, I was doing it last week, but here I was suddenly. There's no way of connecting with magic when you're in these metal boxes and these cars and these buildings. On the river, it's different. There, magic comes to you, and you just have to stop. And all these people, all these wonderful people who were so generous and kind and would put me up for the night or give me food and shelter. I realised that it's good to risk sometimes. It's good to step out there outside your comfort zone. Good, beautiful people here in Twickenham, this is, put me up for the night. And here I'm in Kew Gardens. I got thrown out of Kew Gardens. It was the only place that the police came, the Kew Gardens police, and threw me out. They didn't want political messages in their establishment. This is Hammersmith Bridge. These are the guys I just met on the street. There again, this is another beautiful homeless woman that I met in the street who was writing poetry. She wrote me poetry, and I bought her a beer and a pack of chips. And beautiful trees everywhere I went, there were these amazing trees growing by the river. And the river, our teacher. And I realised how well it blends in with a fracking protest, because our water, I mean, you know, water is life, of course it is. And our rivers are our backbone of our country and our counties. beautiful children. Everywhere I met, these children ran up and Gandalf, Gandalf. It was great. Old fellows, everybody, all walks of life, students, didn't matter what race. These guys are from Spain, I think. This guy was working in a mobile phone operator. This was, just good people everywhere, wonderful people. This is Trafalgar Square. Suddenly people are a little bit more colourful. And here we are in Leicester Square, Harry Potter, not quite my literary sort of contemporary, but here we are at the Greenpeace offices. I went up, and this is my mate Dougal from Greenpeace. I went up and hung out with him, and here I am in this pub in Shoreditch, where Ian McKellen owns this pub in Shoreditch, and he had Gandalf's original staff in the behind the bar, so I went and had a picture taken there as well. Here we are back in Oxford, good people in Oxford. Spent 4 days there, and it was very nice to get to know the place and the people there. I could say you got to know a lot of homeless people living on the streets. Here we are in Mordor. We've arrived. This last day's been pretty tough actually, walking through the city. The winds have been blowing. It's been probably the hardest yet, actually, I would say, and a lot of people everywhere, a lot of noise, a lot of pollution, I don't know. Anyway, here we are, we made it. End of the quest. It turned out to be a water quest, which is pretty fitting since water pollution is one of the big issues with fracking. First of all down the beautiful own River Wye, and then across the Severn, then down the Gloucester Canal for a little bit, and then I picked up the Thames at Lechlade and I've walked 150 miles, 140 miles all the way down the river, and here we are in Parliament Square where the journey ends. So here we go, on to the cracks of Mount Doom. See what Theresa May has to say about it.
You look great. You know, like I was on the bus and I got off because I saw you. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Thank you for people like you.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, keeping an eye on things. Thank you.
Well. All this pomp and circumstance, eh? All this glory of our glorious democracy. And yet this isn't really where the power is. The power is really with the people. The power is in the land. The power is not in the buildings, our glorious monuments to ourselves. This is not where it's at. So here we are at Mount Doom, the cracks of Mount Doom. So I'm about to take, the ring is in here in the letter, in the middle of Mordor, and I'm about to take this off to Downing Street. So here we go. reaction. I like that.
believe in wizards.
Excellent.
Can I take a selfie with you?
Yeah, sure. Right, let's go. Yeah.
Right. Can I take a picture of you?
Yeah,
You look really great.
I'll find the camera. Yeah, sure. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so here we are, very, very nearly at the end of the quest. And it's been an amazing journey. And of the many insights that I've had on the trip, on the 3-week trip, I've got 3 that I take back strongly with me. The first is that the world is a beautiful place. This planet is so wonderful, it's just so beautiful. It's worth doing everything we can to save it. The second is that it's full of good people. People with real good, generous hearts, spirits. And all you have to do is open a door sometimes and the spirit comes out. And the third is that nobody wants fracking. Absolutely nobody that I've spoken to has any regard for fracking at all. The nearer I got to London, the more sort of disassociated they became. But that's obvious, we're in a big city and it's not going to happen here. But I'd like to say something to the people in the city. When you eat your Weetabix and your cornflakes tomorrow morning, just think where that comes from. It doesn't come from Parliament Square. It doesn't grow here in Westminster. It grows where we live in Herefordshire and in the shires that you are thinking of depleting and despoiling. Okay, so we've been to Downing Street, we've been to Mount Doom, we tried to hand in the ring, we tried to hand in a letter, and they wouldn't accept either. They wouldn't let me post a letter or give anything there. So I have a much better idea for the ring actually. I don't want to just throw it down a drain here in Westminster. I'm getting quite attached to it, I must say, you know, like Frodo did with his ring, but I have a much better idea of where to give it. Caroline, hi, I've got a small gift for you here. This is a ring that I've carried from the Shire, Hereford, to Westminster, Mordor, and I don't want to post it in 10 Downing Street's letterbox. I want to give it to you. You are the trustee.
I think it's absolutely appalling that the government has basically run roughshod over the views of local people. This is a government that says that it cares about localisation, that it cares about the views of local people. It's very, very clear that the local people do not want fracking, not only because of the local environmental impacts, but also because of the wider issues to do with climate change. Fracking is essentially a whole new fossil fuel industry at exactly the time when we need to be leaving 80% of known fossil fuel reserves in the ground. Fracking is the wrong way forward, and I hope very much that the government will get the message.
I think fracking belongs to the past, not the future. I've looked at it in my area in Lee, a former mining area, and I can't defend it. And if I can't defend it in Lee, I can't defend it anywhere. So I am here today to show solidarity to people. You know, it's all about protecting our green spaces, protecting our environment, recognising that climate change is real and doing the right thing. And that's why I'm here in solidarity today.
Well, it's fantastic to see so many of you. What a great turnout. I am the MP for Lee, about 10 miles, where are I, Lee? 10 miles or so down the road, a former mining area. And I have seen myself the consequences of fossil fuel extraction, the damage to the land, the damage to people's health. I was surprised a few years ago to find actually that there were licences for fracking in Lee. And I didn't, at that point, have a very firm view about it, so I looked into it. And I was clear that I couldn't support it because I saw the risks to our geology, to our groundwater, to our green spaces. And it's clear to me, if I can't support fracking in Leigh, then I can't support it in Greater Manchester, and I can't support it anywhere.
Hello, Greg. Hello,
What are you doing?
Now, you may think this is really the end of the quest, and you may think this has all been about me, but in fact it's not. It's all about these guys and millions like them. These are my grandchildren. This is Rocco, and this is Sky. Rocco is 6 years old, and Sky is 3. And when Rocco is my age, it'll be the year 2076. And the way that we're going, we're not quite sure what sort of future they will have. Because these guys, these politicians and these CEOs of companies like iGas, Ineos, Barclays Bank, all of these people, they know what they're doing. When they're advocating the use of fossil fuels, they are putting these children's future in jeopardy. And I just wonder why they're doing this, because they've probably got children as well, and they've probably even got grandchildren, and they know what they're doing. So I say to you, all of you people in so-called power, please think about these little guys and their future. Okay, thank you.